Action. Hi, everyone. Whoa, it's been a while since my last live stream, and I have a friend here. I have Steve Young from AppMasters. I've been waiting to do this for so long. I was on your show, over the summer, I think?
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. I'm still getting emails about, oh, that show you did with Steve. I saw you on that, and I have a question. I love that. That was so much fun. So I'm so happy to have you here, finally. And we'll start with our usual tradition as we wait for people to shuffle in. Tell us what's in your cup. Where are you
What's in
watching
my
this from?
cup?
You and the entire audience. That's
Okay.
usually how we do this. I'm drinking this new kind of green peach tea, not the one I drank last time. That is actually quite delicious. I used to drink all black tea all the time, and now I'm trying everything. So I got some herbal tea, I got some black tea, some green tea. I got some green tea and black tea with peach. It's wonderful. So I'm drinking some peach tea from New York City. What about you, Steve? Tell us also if you're watching in the chat as we wait.
I'm from California, and I've got a few things, Ariel. So I've got this mug, which has some mushroom coffee.
Ooh.
I've got my Zoa, just in case I need a little pick-me-up. And then I've got my water bottle, obviously, because you need some water.
Of course.
So I'm fully loaded, ready to go. Like if we're gonna go
Nice.
3 hours, I'm ready, baby. Like I'm ready. Got my adult diaper on. Let's go. It's all good.
I didn't hear this at all. I mean, the stream didn't hear this at all.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I see people we got a hi from Pakistan. There's a half-calf decaf. Coffee and
pretty good.
creatine. Ooh, a lot of interesting infusions here. There's a lot of interesting stuff in our chat at all times. And that's also a good reminder, the chat. If you have any questions for us as we go through apps, please ask us in the chat after we get started. We kind of love talking, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get us to stop talking about what we're talking about and answer a question. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but let's go with a yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go with a yes. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So today we have an interesting one. I've been doing app teardowns alone for the longest time, where you submit your app, and then I tell you what I see that's going on with it that we can improve. And I base all of my knowledge off of what I do in app teardowns and keyword teardowns that I publish. So if you read those, this should be kind of a line. Steve also does app teardowns. I know this because when I was on your show, we did those together. And I figured it would be nice to do something where we have two brains who have been in the industry for such a long time, thinking about how to improve and thinking about the little tricks, little tips, little things that we just know and may not be as obvious to others. So we open up submissions. Over the last few days, we got a bunch of submissions. I wish we can do all of them, but that never happens. So we picked 8 at random. I don't know if we can get to all of the 8. We'll try. And we're going to go through them. We're going to load them up. We're going to look at the metadata. We're going to look at content. We're going to try and look at competitors. And we're going to look at Inspector to see if there's really anything exciting happening and what we can learn from that and how we would go about improving it. So I see a lot of people are in, and we're going to get started very, very soon. But continue to tell us where you're from, what's in your cup. And Steve, introduce yourself to those who don't know you, 3 that don't know you.
Well, I've been in the apps business since 2011. Started teaching myself how to code back then and started making apps, Ariel. And I was making about $500 to $1,000 as a side hustle. And I sold cassette tapes when I was in elementary school. So I knew that journey, that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what that journey would look like. But even back then, I was like interested in podcasts. I was listening to a lot of podcasts, especially Mixergy. So shout out to Andrew Warner. But
I'm going to quote you on all of this. Just
good. I love it.
this.
Adult diaper. We got Mixergy. Okay, good. This is perfect. Mushroom coffee. But in 2013, I was like, let me start a podcast so I can learn from my heroes in the space to potentially turn this little side hustle into a full-time business. I was running growth for a startup in San Francisco at the time. And so 6 months after starting the podcast, I built up an audience who then started coming to me for marketing help. And I had interviewed at the time, the co-founder of Shazam, the creator of Crossy Road, Color Switch. Like I was started to just interview anybody that would say yes to me and started this podcast. And so, yeah, 6 months after starting the podcast, I left my job. And then now we have an app marketing agency where we specialize in ASO and then monetization as well. And a lot of the UA side.
That's
So
super
full
cool.
stack, I guess.
Full stack on the
Yeah.
marketing side. That's nice. You don't do any
Yeah,
development,
only on the marketing side.
right? Okay.
So we do make our own apps, Ariel, and I've been coming
Okay.
back and I've got some case studies. So one of our apps that we've been sitting around doing pretty much like 1 to 2 downloads a day, I found the right keyword using AppFigures and then kind of just like re-optimize everything and boom, like it's now
Wow.
generating downloads. I can reveal the downloads. We're getting about 50 to 100 downloads a day.
What?
In the last couple of weeks, we've been able to
100x?
make 800.
Wow.
Yeah, so like it goes to show you like ASO is not dead. It's still alive and well. It's just you got to find the right keywords. And
Absolutely.
if you find the right keywords, you do the magic that Ariel and I are about to share.
Yeah.
You know, you can. So it went from nothing to finally like, you know, I've made more money than $800 in a couple of weeks, but it is one of the proudest $800 that I've made. I'm like, finally it's going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Finally going. It's got some life.
I think I hear all these stories all the time. I was at a conference a few weeks ago in the UK, and I got to meet someone who saw me at a conference last year, works for a massive company whose name I think they would kill me if I share, but they use our tools, and he is a developer. He is not a marketer, not anything,
Yeah.
but different teams use our tools for ASO. And he decided, I saw Ariel, he gave me some tips. I can do this. Went back home as a developer, a lead developer on a big app. Went and made some changes, and he said 3 days of changes were worth 30% increase. 30%. It's like mind blowing. It's just insane. And that's today. That's in today's climate, 2023, about to be 2024, the App Store, all the changes that are happening. It's, like you said, not dead. Just getting started, kind of. And I think Apple's leaning into it, and Google too. So definitely a good time to be in this space.
It's not easy.
No.
But it's possible.
No. I mean, what's great and easy at this point? I don't really know that many things.
Back then it was easy.
Yeah.
When I started, I was like, oh, it's very easy. Like you don't need to do much. But now it's like, okay, you got to really know the inside.
Definitely.
secrets.
It's the same with the search engine optimization. I did search engine optimization way back in the day, like the early 2000s. And back in the day, you could just take some keywords, stick them on a page, and boom, you're number one. You can't do that anymore. These days, even if you do that, you can't do that anymore. But yeah, SEO still works. There are still SEO companies that are bringing sites that no one heard about to number one top result, and they're getting millions of page views, making a ton of money. That's a strategy. So that makes a ton of sense. And I think ASO is just a few years behind SEO. So we're kind of going in that direction. But cool, I think it's time to get started. Let's take a look at some apps. So we picked a bunch of apps at random, and let me bring up the first app. The first app that I have is Drumroll. I actually don't have a button for Drumroll. Maybe in the future.
I could get you some. Let me see.
Let's see if you can share your audio too.
Let's see. No, I don't have any drum roll, but I have a ticking. Does
Okay,
that help?
that's something. We're ticking.
Okay.
So for our first app, we have SongSheet. SongSheet Pro, not just SongSheet. Setlist Helper. This is really interesting. So one of the immediate things that I'm seeing on this page is it probably was made a little bit before the App Store started moving in the direction of screenshots being more expressive, screenshots being more indicative of what's going on here. What is your initial take on this app, Steve?
Yeah. So like, you know, obviously we go straight into it. The title is not good unless you're going after a song sheet, but I know a little bit about this category. Obviously music sheet is probably the bigger one.
Yep.
Don't mind the pro, but I would lead with the main the main keywords in the title. Ariel, I like your opinion on this, but like I find that the title has obviously the most weight. And so for me, sometimes it just doesn't even matter what you put in the keyword field. Like I want my most important keywords in the title, and hopefully for an app like this that has 1.8 thousand, I'm saying 1.8 thousand reviews, you can probably go after more competitive keywords. But yeah, that's what I would do from the title perspective. And the screenshots are butt ugly. Like lead with what I found to be pretty interesting is if you lead with the main keyword that you're targeting, like the keywords that you have in the title, that actually leads to, so one of our clients, we did an A/B screenshot. We didn't change any of the keywords. And we went from like calm anxiety, feel better to calm stress and anxiety with cognitive behavioral therapy, because they were ranking really pretty well for CBT. And we saw a 30% increase in downloads just by optimizing for it. So I like to lead with the primary keyword because obviously that's what they're searching for. If you rank highly for it and you make it big and bold and it's front and center, they're more likely to tap on your app versus, you know, competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on so many good things. So the name, title, obviously most important. The way Apple ranks is actually interesting. So they have a weight system where the name gets some sort of weight. The subtitle gets less weight. And the keyword list, at this point, it's a little bit debatable, but it gets either a little bit less weight or the same as a subtitle. Depends on who you ask. But both of those are lower. So the name is really where you want to focus most of your energy. And if you think about it, I like to think about everything from the algorithm perspective, but also from a normal human perspective. If my mom is reading this, she doesn't know that we're optimizing for the algorithm. She could not care any less. If she's looking for something specific and it's not in the name, or it's not anywhere in the beginning of the name, even if it's number one, she may just gloss over it because she has something in mind. She has this intent in mind. That's how I always like to think about that stuff. And it turns out the algorithm kind of thinks the same way too. So starting from left to right, it's how it assigns weight within those groups. So if you have a group that has, if you're in the name, most of the weight for your ASO is in the name, it's still assigned from left to right. So what's on the left is going to get more weight than what's on the right. People don't believe this, but it makes such a huge difference. That's why I say to a lot of people, if your brand name is not well recognizable and people are not searching for it, put it at the end. Like, it's nice to have and you should have it, but don't open with it. No one knows, no one cares about the name you came up with and you think is amazing. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I just mean that you want to get visibility.
Ariel, I'll add on to that. What we've also seen is the autofill. You know, like I just pick on meditation all the time. But if you lead with meditation, you probably need and we saw this with one of our apps and one of our clients' apps. So let's just assume it's meditation, all right? We're showing up in the autofill.
Yep.
So for ours, we did exactly what you said. We led with the main keyword and then we had our brand at the very end.
Yep.
For another client, they lead with the main keyword and then they have their brand at the end, if they have their brand. But what we're seeing is they're showing up in the autofill. So when you start typing meditation, you see the list of like keywords.
Yep.
And one of there is our brand for one of our apps, and another app is ours, is our clients. And the client's app, for that term, he actually ranks 25. And he doesn't rank top 3 for any big keywords. We all know that top 3 gets majority of the downloads. So when I looked at his data, I was like, man, he's getting downloads, but he's not ranking well for any high traffic keywords. They're all like literally 5, right? But the main keyword that he does rank for, he's 25, but it shows up in the autofill. So my guess and my hypothesis is that he's driving downloads through the autofill. People are just putting in the keyword and then tapping that suggested autofill and then going to his app. Because we can see downloads from App Store search. He's getting anywhere from 30 to 50 a day, and it's coming from App Store search. Yet we don't rank really well for any big keywords. So that's my hypothesis.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Also, a little hint, and this, not a hint, a little bonus tip. The first 7 days of your app right after launch, you're getting a boost in the autocomplete. So even if you're not lucky enough to make it into autocomplete, like you're a client, you're still going to get that boost for the first 7 days, especially if you're launching at a time where no one else is launching something very, very similar. And that happens to a lot of small apps by accident, and they have no idea why. This is exactly why. And I think that's, if you don't do your ASO before you launch and you just do it as an afterthought in the beginning and then you spend time optimizing, you're going to lose out on those 7 days. And that kind of sucks. So small tip, if you haven't launched yet, make sure to at least try to do keywords before. So
great.
So here, I think there's one big question that I have. I'm going to dip into Keyword Inspector, and I want to see if, let's see.
I'm there too. I'm literally in Keyword Inspector right now.
Nice. Was my keyboard not working? That's a different problem. One problem at a time. Luckily, I have 2, so we can make that happen. A tip for streamers: have 2 keyboards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I always forget to. Whoa. What was that?
Sorry, that was my sound effect. That was my right answer sound effect.
Oh,
I'll stop playing sound effects if that's coming on too strong for you.
No, you should. You should. I love that, actually. In the next iteration, I will have sound effects on this as well. So let's see. We're going to go into Keyword Inspector, and let's throw in, because I don't really know anything about this. So I'm curious. Keyword inspector. Whoa, I don't have it on by default. Now everyone, the entire audience gets to see how this is done. I even have to log in. This is a problem. You would imagine I would be prepared for this. And I am, for the most part. But
if I may, Ariel, while you do that, we got Letter Grid who asked a question. Okay, instead of calling my app Letter Grid dash Word Game, I should call it Word Game dash Letter Grid. Yeah, absolutely. Theoretically. I mean, I think Word Game is a little bit competitive, but yeah. yes, you got the sense.
Let's see if there's
especially if you're in like the top 10 for Word Game. That's how I would make that decision. If you're in the, I don't know, outside of that, then I might not do that.
I think it also depends on your DPR and your ratings. So if your ratings, if you have any sort of just enough ratings to compete, you can do that. If you don't, let's say you get 3 new ratings a month and the competition gets 300, you're just never going to rank. So that's going to be very difficult. Ideally, you would find something that aligns with Word Game. Maybe find a keyword that's a little bit more of an opportunity, meaning not enough companies actually optimize for it, but the algorithm does show as being popular. I can't think of any that have to do with board games, but they exist. And so I would go after that, build up those ratings, make sure that my DPR, my downloads per ratings ratio, is as low as possible, which is really as high as possible, and then go from there.
So you want a high DPR?
So I want a very low DPR. I want my DPR to be in the
because I only need
digits.
Yeah, this app is, well, one app. I search for Word Game, and there, Word Connect is 7 DPR. That's insane.
Yeah, so 7 is really nice. It means that, especially if they get enough downloads, if they're only getting 7 downloads, that means their mom and their friends and their dog are really, really nice. But for any app that's getting more than 1,000 downloads, having a DPR of 7, and that's amazing. That means that every 7 downloads, you're getting a rating. So 1 in 7 people was like, yes, I'm going to give this app a rating. I like it. And that's exactly what you want. Yeah. So I opened up Keyword Inspector. I managed to log in. I managed to even dismiss this notification about today's live stream. And I'm looking at Setlist. And Setlist has a popularity of 22. And some of our results, the results are not that exciting. Top result has 60 new ratings. We don't have a download estimate for it because it's so low. Option number 2 doesn't have any new ratings in the last 30 days. Option number 3 doesn't even have the keyword in the name or the subtitle, and it's got 30 new ratings. So I think something that's interesting and something that I would not necessarily consider because I don't really know this category very well is move Setlist to the beginning. Start off with Setlist and make sure that you are working on getting more ratings. But then also something like chord charts and lyrics notepad. That sounds exciting to me. Let's take a look and see what those are like. So what is chord sheet? No, was it chord sheet? No, it was something else. Chord chart. Chord chart. Oh, that's a popularity of 5. Okay. Nothing all that exciting. And that's another one of those things where people think, oh yeah, chord chart is definitely a good thing. I definitely want this for my app. It's like, no, not really. So I always look at popularity first. Let's see. So we're looking at also lyrics notepad. I suspect this will be a 5 as well, because I already have a notes app. And it's not very popular, so we're getting it in real time. So I think while this is working, I would say I would redo the keywords for this app altogether. I think one of the main things is if you go after Setlist, I'm going to skip this lyrics notepad because I think that's less relevant. So Setlist has a popularity of 22. If we look at some of the keywords that are used most often, we have Setlist, we have set, we have lyrics, we have helper, we have songbook. That's an interesting one. Let's see who's using songbook. Okay, so the third option. Let's see what songbook is all about. At 25, okay, so we're getting better. If we use songbook, there's something that we can utilize here. And then for songbook, you have a few more options. Now we're starting to see chords, we're starting to see karaoke. I don't think karaoke fits here, but still. So I would redo this. And I think one of the things that a lot of people don't know is the trick with localizations. So in the US, specifically in the US App Store, Apple looks at the metadata in 10 different languages and uses all of those languages to index, which means you can have 10 times the number of keywords, 10 times the number of keywords in the name, in the subtitle, in the keyword list. So what I would do in this case is I would try a very broad approach and use as many of those localizations as I can to go after more keywords and try to figure out, is there anything related to chords that I can use, really expand on chords, not just chords chart or chord chart, but go really as deep as possible with chords. Do the same thing for Setlist, do the same thing for lyrics, if that makes sense. Look at all the other keywords that are similar and really dig into that. What would you do with the screenshots, though, for this, for SongSheet?
I would look at the reviews and what is the main keyword. So like if it is a set list helper, have that as a primary keyword, have some social proof. You know, here's the way I like to do it. I think the first 3 are the most important because they show up in the search results. That first screenshot has the main keyword that I'm targeting, big and bold. I then have some social proof, and then a unique selling point that is like delight, like confirm that you're here with first screenshot, show that you're legit, and then surprise that third screenshot should surprise the user, be like, oh, you didn't think that we had this, but we also have this. And so that's how I like to do it as much as possible. Like figure out what the favorite features are and just highlight them.
I think that's a great idea. I have a guide on how to do screenshots and how to choose the right fonts for the kind of feel that you're going for, whether you're going for sort of professional or you're going for friendly or you're going for casual. And one of those things after we're looking at the colors, we're looking at the layout, is use keywords that you know people that you're going to use in your app because it's that same intent. It's exactly what you were saying before. People are coming to the app for this one thing that they need. You got to tell them the app has it right up front. And then the idea of delight, the idea of surprise, if you do that and you do it nice, there's no way they would back out and say, I don't want this app. Let me go find something else. Especially not when most apps are free today because they monetize using in-apps or subscriptions or something else that you don't have to commit to right up front. So that's kind of a big win if you do it that way. We're going to make that into a clip too because I like those steps.
Nice.
We have a few questions from the audience. I'm trying to pay attention to the questions now that I have all these monitors. So let's see. A question about the languages that I just mentioned. We have a whole guide that lists all the languages and languages in other countries and how to make it all work. I'll try to drop a link to it into the chat in just a little bit. And if not, it'll be in the description later. That's probably one of our most popular guides. Anytime anyone finds out that that's a thing, they immediately want to do it. I was just at a conference a few weeks ago, and every single person I talked to, I told this trick, and they all just wanted to go run and do it, which I approve of. So go and do it after the video, obviously. Well, after you first like the video, because this is a great tip that's going to get you more downloads, and then watch the video, and then you can go and try it. I have to say like the video because we're optimizers. We're all optimizers. That's how it works. But yes, please do give the video a like. I can see the counter, so if you're doing it, thank you.
Let's see.
Let's see, what else do we have in our list?
I'm going to like it myself.
when we like it, you know that it's good. That's usually the measure of how good things are. Let's see if we have anything else in the chat, and then we can move on to the next app. Ludmila is asking, is it a mistake to use the same keywords, for example, for Spanish and Spain and Mexico, even if they perform well? I don't think it's a mistake at all. I don't believe that Spanish Spain factors into the US, so that's just Spanish for Spain. But I think that's not a mistake. Right, Steve?
No.
Yeah.
No. I would keep it the same. I mean, they're all different. Like even if you do US, Canada, or I mean, sorry, US, Canada, English, Canada, or English, UK, English, Australia, it's worth repeating. And a lot of times in these other English speaking markets, I found like the highest traffic keywords, there's not a lot of long tail keywords in these other countries as there is in the US. Like US has the most long tail keywords low competition keywords that you can target,
Yep.
whereas all these other countries usually is the main keyword. That's it. Meditation, great. Deep
Yep.
breathing, not so much.
I think a lot of it has to do with the actual, like, the way the language is. We did a live stream a long time ago with a guy who did A/B testing for Google, and he was A/B testing for Google Maps, and he went through the whole process of how A/B testing screenshots for Google Maps in the US versus the UK made a humongous difference. In the UK, if you put a regular bus, like a US bus, in the UK as a screenshot, no one's going to download the app. It actually dropped downloads. But if you put a double-decker, now the downloads are back up. If you put a double-decker in the US, downloads will drop. The same happens with keywords, because the society is, even though the language is fairly the same, the way people speak, the nuances are all different. So if you are repeating them, you can still tweak the little ones and try to squeeze out a little bit more out of it. So that's good.
I love that. Ariel, I hate it when I see digitize or with the S. I'm like, go away.
Yeah.
App Store optimization with the S. Who says that?
Yeah.
It's all Z, baby.
It just looks like like someone who doesn't understand what I do, or someone who doesn't understand this culture. And normally I try to stay away from it. And I think it's the same what I was saying before about my mom. If my mom sees this and she's not a UK native speaker, she speaks English just in the US, and like, is this for me? I'm not sure if this is for me. Let me continue swiping. Yeah. And she's probably not going to swipe to position 50. She's going to swipe 2 or 3 more. That's why 1 through 3 is where all the action is. But I mean, if you're number 1, you didn't get the download, you lost. And you're not going to keep that number 1 for a long time. So that's important to keep in mind. Well, the chat is buzzing. Let's see.
Yeah.
Someone is saying that they liked the video before the stream. Thank you. No, 2 thank yous. Okay, another question. Which is more important, a low DPR or the volume of ratings? It's worth noting that as the paid app, my ratings count will naturally be lower than that of free apps. It's actually, so it's the volume of ratings that counts for ranking. The DPR is an interesting way to look, is a simplified way to look at, if I do X, what is going to happen to my ratings? And if my competitor does X, what's going to happen to my ratings? So I'll give you an easy example. One of the keywords that I looked at fairly recently, the top competitor had, I think, somewhere in the area of 1,000 new ratings, but their DPR was very, very high. High is not good in this case. And another competitor had, I think, about a little bit about half maybe of those ratings, but the DPR was much, much lower, which means that if they just push up their downloads by a little bit, maybe 10, 20% max, they can outrank that competitor. And if you're leveraging everything you can, so if you're leveraging search ads and doing more with that, and you have a number in mind, you know that if you're getting 100 new ratings and your DPR is 10, or 100 new downloads, your DPR is 10, you're going to get 10 new ratings, and you know that you need 50 more, you kind of know exactly how many downloads you need. You can spread them out. You can figure out what's the right mix to do that, especially with search ads, because it's just easy and very similar to how you do ASO proper, and then go about that. So the DPR itself is not a factor in ASO. It's just a way for you to understand you versus the competition, and also how you're improving over time. But for me, from what I've seen, it's the volume.
Yeah, I like it. Have you seen a couple of questions for you, Ariel? A friend of mine, Andre, said, hey, I can't make the live stream. Do me a favor. Ask Ariel about this. The repeating the singular version and the plural version of a keyword. What are your thoughts on that?
So that's a tough one. The easy answer is you don't need it, because the algorithm, full text search, it just does both. But if your keyword is not very competitive, you're probably going to be able to get away with optimizing for the singular and getting ranked for the plural. If the keyword is very competitive, you're not going to be able to do that, because even though the algorithm will index you for both, it will give you more weight for the one that's actually in your name, because it's a more precise match. So something like dating. I don't think dating is one of those, but I've seen a bunch that have keywords. Within dating, you have keywords that are so specific, and there I would be as specific as I can. So if I know that I'm optimizing for the plural, or that I want to optimize, I want to show up in the plural, that's what I would optimize for. And it's the same with the singular. For the most part, that doesn't happen in most apps and most keywords that I've seen. But if you want to be extra super sure, optimize for the right one, for the one you're going after. And you will see that the popularity scores usually deviate. And they deviate in the direction of the one where most people are interested in. In some cases, it could be a difference between a 5 and a 40. which is just
Yeah.
insane. So yeah, I would say optimize for the one that you're going for. Now, repetition between the two of them, so having both the singular and the plural, that's not good. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, because that's still the algorithm sees them as the same keyword. And so if you're doing that, do that back to back, just so you're kind of taking up the same space. If you absolutely have to. I would optimize just for one, but figure out which one is more important, the plural or the singular.
We are running a test right now for one of our clients. We have the singular version in the title. It's part of the name. And then we have the plural version in the subtitle. And I'm testing what happens with these both keywords, because the plural version has more traffic, but it wouldn't make sense in the title given the name that we're trying to go have. And so we needed the singular version, but I was like, you know what? Because, back in the day, Ariel, it used to work repeating keywords in your title. It used to work. And so I was like,
it used to be the biggest thing.
One more time.
That's like,
I was like, let me just try it one more time. Yeah.
But I at this point, I've seen all the evidence to suggest that repeating is evil. Just duplication is evil. It's the cardinal sin of ASO. And it hurts in most cases. There are a few areas, very, very specific, where it's not going to hurt you as much. And some people see that and think, oh, no, I can repeat words. But if you repeat keywords within the name, that's not going to be as terrible because they're still all getting the same amount of that high juju, good amount of juju from the algorithm. If you're repeating between the beginning of the name and the end of the subtitle, now you're really kicking yourself in the foot because the end of the subtitle is a lot less strong. So it could also depend on how and where you repeat. It's not just repetition as a Boolean, yes or no. But it's interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing what that experiment, what it yields. I'll ping you in the future if you want to share.
You're going to have to back. No, I'm only if you have me back. That's the only time I'm sharing it.
Perfect. I'll have you back. Do you want to come back next week?
All right. Okay,
let's have a poll in the chat. Do we want Steve on next week?
Well, I want to hit 50 likes. How about that? I'll come back if we hit 50 likes.
Wow.
We know how many people are watching. Okay. How about that?
50 likes. We're only at 100 viewers, so that should be easy.
Easy.
Let's do it.
It's not hard.
We're going to 50. We're going to 50. Okay, so let's continue to the next app. Next on the list, I have an app on Google Play called Survival Across the Ocean. It's a game, not an app, number one. And I don't look at Google Play as much, mostly because a lot of people don't submit apps from Google Play when I do these things. But people have submitted many Google Play apps, so we have an even number of Google and Apple at this point. And that's exciting. I don't get to look at Google as much. So Google, how comfortable are you with Google, Steve? Do you do more Google, less Google?
No, I mean, I do more iOS, but I'm pretty comfortable with Google.
That's good. Yeah, I feel like the same. In all the research that I've done, in all the teardowns that I've done, in all the This Week in Apps articles that I've looked at, revenue between the App Store and Google Play, the revenue is really on the App Store. It's very difficult to find apps that monetize as well on Google Play as they do on the App Store. And the ones that do, it's being driven by ads. And not many apps do that. So ultimately, I think that's why we're both very busy looking at the App Store, because that's just where the money is. If we're being realistic, I shared the real data about this. This is not just me guessing. But Google Play is pretty big, and most of the downloads, especially for games, come from Google Play. So if you have a game and it's not on Google Play, you're really missing out. I think that's the gist. So looking at Google Play, let's see what we have here. First of all, Survival Across the Ocean doesn't really give a lot to work with in terms of keywords. What is this? Is survival something that people put into Google Play just to find a survival game? Probably not. I don't think so. So that's my initial take. I do love that when it comes to games, the screenshots are usually a lot nicer and a lot better. And it's not just because games are prettier. I think just games have that sort of understanding that you have to show off. But while these screenshots are nice, I think going back to our original conversation about screenshots, they really have to be about what you're selling. So the first screenshot that I'm seeing here says open world awaits you. Survival and open world, I'm not entirely sure what this means. I may not be the target demographic for this game, but I think the screenshots are beautiful other than the text. So I would try to think about what keywords actually used for a survival game. Let's see if we can throw that into Inspector and put survival game into this. I don't know if that's a real genre or how that works. Let's see. And I use
Yeah, I can add on this too as you do that, Ariel, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
I
go for
will. What I try to do, and I just looked at this on Google Play. Like for a game like this, think about like other brands that you might be able to tie into this that have, because for games, here's what I found in my experience. A lot of times, unless it's like a word game, people aren't searching for color switch. People aren't searching for a crossy road. And so the brand is key. For a game like this, if you're purely relying on ASO, lean on something else, right? Like find something. So like I put in Survivor because I'm a big fan of the show. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? I wonder, and there's Survivor IO. And so is there something else like, I don't know, pirates, ship, battleship,
Yeah.
something around that you just start thinking through that have, or even a TV show that's like this that you can play off of, because a lot of times they will have traffic and very little competition. My favorite example of this is sports teams, right? You think about the Jets. Are you Jets or Giants? But you think about those football teams, you start to realize that they have really good traffic scores, but low competition. And so same thing with these type of games. It's very hard to do ASO for games.
Yeah, and I think the challenge here is that intent is very different. When you come in and you just want to solve a problem, maybe your problem is, I want to take a picture of something. I want a Setlist organizer. That's a very clean and very specific intent. No one has that intent when they think about games. Games are a good way to pass time, to have fun, to relax, and you're not coming into the App Store for the most part thinking of a specific genre of game or a specific type of game, unless you heard about it somewhere else. And so tying it into something else, like a TV show, like an event that's happening, like really all of those, that's such a good idea. And I think that would be very beneficial in this case. So let's look at what we have here in Inspector. This is a popularity of 29 for survival games. So it is popular, but also 16,000 competitors. So that's a lot of competitors. But let's see what we have, what kind of keywords apps are using. Interesting. Craft, multiplayer, raft, with a registered trademark, so I bet you that has something to do with the game. Ocean, open world, last island, interesting. Survival, what is this? Raft, survival, ocean. What do we got here? Last day on Earth, survival. So a lot of these games use these very direct sort of names, and I think maybe that's working if they don't rely on App Store optimization to get discovery. But as soon as you do that, you really want to think beyond the box of what are my competitors doing, and more along the lines of what can I do to get in front of users. And the good thing is, in games, there's so many opportunities because a lot of games don't think in terms of ASO. But I was lucky enough to work with one of the apps that was originally launched with the iPhone. This is a while ago, and help them get more discovery for their app. This is a few years ago, I think just when COVID started. And that was a lot of fun. It was definitely challenging because that intent is so unclear when it comes to games, and it's more about feeling and it's more about the flow of it all. But with enough work and enough tweaking, and we're not talking weeks and months, we're talking just a few concentrated days of effort, we were able to increase downloads. Again, for a title that's been around forever, so it has a lot of traffic already, but it didn't have any search traffic, and now it does have search traffic without anything else going on. So that was a lot of hard work that was worth it, I would say. But yeah, games are definitely challenging. What do you think about these screenshots in general? Like, where would you go with these?
Yeah, I think with games, it's kind of hard. It's almost like you have to show the gameplay. I like that there's a video. My opinion on screenshots are like on iOS super important. On Google Play, they're just not as emphasized as they are on iOS. So like the thing that I would be focused on is more of the icon on Google Play, because that's what shows up in the search result. And so that's how I would start. Like like not a super high priority on Google Play in terms of screenshots, in my opinion.
Well, so I have a question for you that's related but unrelated. Yep. How do you feel about videos on the App Store? Because I feel the same way about videos on the App Store.
I mean, I think some people swear by it. I think games are important. If there's, we've talked about this a lot, and we found that games is the one category where typically it helps to have a video. Other apps, other category, non-games, it sometimes hurts your downloads. And so it is definitely worth A/B testing. I wouldn't invest too much on this, but I think if I had to side towards something, if I'm not a game, I would not have a video because it takes time. You have to develop it. It's probably not worth it.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. When I was doing app teardowns, I was really getting into who's doing a video, who's not doing a video, and the difference between not just having a video, but a good video versus an okay video. And you can tell that just an okay video is not good for the brand, for the app, for downloads. It's actually better to not have a video at all, which I thought was just insane. But then I had a conversation with a guy making an app that's super specific, like a super professional app, something that has a lot of features and a lot of toggles and options. And he said that in a video, people didn't really see exactly what they were looking for. They were looking for like one little feature. That's all they cared, like the $60 app paid up front. And he said that with a video, because people were a little bit more confused, they just didn't see it. And with just like the ugliest screenshots you can think of. So not really ugly, just screenshots, no titles, no captions, no direction, no flow to them, just actual screen grabs of the app. He was making more money, which I thought was interesting for this one particular app. Obviously not common at all, and not what I would do for most apps. But that's kind of what I took from it. Is if you know your audience and you know your audience cares about these things, like go with the audience here. And I think for games, the audience wants to see fun and lively and exciting. Do you think the keywords matter in this screenshot as much in these screenshots, or because it's Google Play and everything is kind of de-emphasized anyway, just make it pretty and move on with life?
Yeah, I would just make it pretty and move on with life. Like I wouldn't spend too much A/B testing because I'm of the mindset that like you can get into too much A/B testing and then like, what are you really moving? You're not really moving the needle, right? And so even with, I've seen the ugliest screenshots, the ugliest icons, the ugliest paywalls making 6 figures a month. And it's just like, it's ranking number 1 for the primary keyword.
Yeah.
There's traffic for that primary keyword. It's solving a real need. It's more in the niche and it's making money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Yeah, sure. Let's A/B test it. But obviously it's working.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah, I think too much optimization is just a waste of time. As long as you know that you've optimized the things that are important, or you at least tried a few times for the things that are important.
Yeah.
So for this, what I would do, just to recap what we talked about, is I would easily look at the name. I think the name could have more, and I bet you that we can also optimize the description for this if we load it into our description optimizer, and it would not have enough. You know, let me try this quickly. I don't know if you've used our description optimizer. It's called keyword density in the ASO section on the site.
Yeah, we have.
You have? Okay, awesome. So let's grab this name from here, and I'm lazy, so I'm going to copy and paste it.
Ariel, we have 50.
We have 50. You're coming back. Yes. You have to come back now with actual results from that A/B test, because if not, people will kill us. They're going to downvote us.
I only come back once I have the results.
Sounds good. I'll facilitate. So let's throw this in here and see if we can figure out what's up with this description. So what this tool does, in case those of you who are watching have not used it, is it takes the description of the apps, because that does matter in Google Play and it doesn't on the App Store. And it follows all of what we know after having reverse engineered the algorithm to what matters in these keywords and in the description. So we have all the keywords and we rank them by density and we show popularity. There's actually a bunch of interesting stuff. The only thing that our optimizer says is not enough keywords. So there aren't enough combinations that are repeated enough for the algorithm to see those keywords to be important, which I kind of get. I see that. But also within them, we have ships can build survival game. Game is only repeated 3 times for a game. And we have 873 characters, 140 words. So out of 140 words, only 3 are game for a game. So I would spend some more time optimizing the description as well. And when you do keyword research in general, what I found is that it applies throughout, especially on Google Play. Put it in the name, put it in the short description, put it in the long description, and optimize it for the description with repetition. The only place where repetition is not evil is in the long description. Yep. And
I like it.
That's how that works. Do you do a lot of Google Play description optimization? It's so tedious.
I do. I haven't seen too much. Like, again, I'm all about low touch, high impact.
Yeah.
And we tested this. It was a couple of years back, but we went from like 5 to 8 and then playing around with the keyword density. And some members of my team are saying that, like, for one of our clients, we're seeing a pretty high keyword density for a keyword, and it's in the spammy rate. Like, I don't know if you have a recommendation, but most of their competitors are around 5 to 6% for this keyword, the primary keyword, and we're about 8. So we're trying to drop it down to 5% just to see, and we're trying to isolate it, right? Not change the title, not change the short description, but isolate dropping it and seeing what happens to the rankings to see if it'll move a little bit. But
that's a great experiment. I think that 8% is definitely on the very high end. I usually go for 3 to 5. That's I don't think 8 is hurting you, so I don't know if you'll see a huge difference between 8 and 5. If you were at like 12 or 13, you would definitely see an increase, I think, in rank. From just dipping down a little bit. But it also really depends on the keywords. Google has this all very expressive system of looking at keywords. So one keyword repeated twice wouldn't necessarily be one keyword repeated twice. The way it thinks about it depends on the combinations and everything else. Google is so much more sophisticated when it comes to language and words, and for obvious reasons, they've been doing this forever. Before Apple was just getting into it. So, okay, that's where I would go. I would go with, first of all, look at keywords and find keywords that will get you discovery for a game, organic discovery that's a little bit more intentful, a little bit more tied to things that people are searching for, and then use those. Use those in the screenshots. Use those in the name, in the short description, in the long description a little bit better. And I think we can see more downloads.
Yep.
All right, we did 2. We did 2 in 46 minutes. Obviously, we're very fast. Let's try to get through at least 2 more before we say goodbye.
All right, let's go.
I think my maximum is 5 when I'm doing them on my own. So I'm clearly the problem here, but let's see. So next on my list is GuessUp, which I imagine is like Heads Up. But GuessUp, word party charades, forehead guessing with friends. Forehead guessing. So you see, that's the kind of stuff that my mom will look at and be like, what is this? Why would people even write this? And I don't know if she would do this. I didn't ask my mom. I should probably do that for the next video, just have my mom in attendance. But let's see if that works. So GuessUp, word party. We're looking at a bunch of ratings. We're looking at kind of interesting screenshots. I like the colors here. I really like a lot of what's happening here. So what is your first take? I'll let you have this one.
Okay. So I know why forehead's there. There's forehead games as a keyword.
Yeah.
That's probably what they're going after. And then charades. Yeah. I like you. Like I think the way I try to optimize this is utilize the Spanish Mexico localization, especially if you're in the US. And if you, it looks like they're pretty strong in the Spanish Mexico. So I'm going to go in the Vietnamese localization. And then I try to lead with the primary keyword. So I'm looking at their Vietnamese localization right now. It says guess space up, which I don't mind. And then charades and words. If guess space up does not have a lot of volume, go with just charades. What we found back in 2019 is the exact match of a keyword. The shorter, the better, actually. Yep. And so what we're trying to test around with now is be like, okay, in the titles of all these 10 different localization that helps the US, let's try testing out, let's have different titles everywhere. So I want charades in there, maybe in Arabic localization, I'll put forehead games in there as well. And so that's how I start messing around with the titles. The titles all should be different in the 10 different localizations.
And there are 10 different localizations, so you kind of have infinite opportunities if you think about it. I mean, maybe not infinite, but when you come from 100 characters, people ask me, what do I do if I can't fill all 10 localizations? And I say, don't. It's so many. You don't really have to compete against yourself to do this. But that makes a lot of sense. I think Charades is very popular for obvious reasons, and Heads Up is very popular. I believe Heads Up is one of the top paid apps in the US. Let's take a quick look at the top paid apps in the US. Not that it really matters, but it's an interesting one because it is a paid app, and paid apps are really tough. Yeah, Heads Up is number 5 on in the top overall. So apps and games, which is pretty big. The funny thing is, paid apps make so much less money than free apps these days that even being top 5 in the US or 5th in the US, it's not making nearly as much as like top, I think, 80th on top grossing chart. Actually, we can probably tell where it is. I'm scrolling through the top grossing chart in the US. Let's see. Well, it's not in top 80. I can tell you this much. Yeah, and these apps are making a lot more money.
Or heads up.
Yeah, heads up. So heads up is just an interesting anecdote for those of you who are paying attention to, should I go from a paid app to a free with in-app purchases or a free with subscriptions? The answer is always yes. That should never be a no. I think paid apps are just dying, with a few exceptions. Do you have any clients that actually have paid apps and are sticking with their paid apps, and they're not a super professional niche type of a thing?
Not super professional niche. No, it is a niche one that's working well. I think niche apps, as long as there's a little bit of a brand, tend to work. Yeah. We've been successfully running for like 2 years now at this point, running Apple search ads for this paid app and doing pretty well for it. And so, but we have seen it lose rankings, because I do think that the most important thing beyond keyword optimization for the rankings is download velocity and revenue, beyond like everything else, right? And so I think the download velocity as a paid app is just never going to be what it is as a free app. And so I don't think we did anything wrong, but as we've been working together for a long time, I can see him dropping in the rankings for the main keyword, even though we haven't changed the title and subtitle in a very long time. And I think it just has to do with download velocity and revenues for this app.
Absolutely. And the competition is trying. So even if you haven't made any changes, it doesn't mean that the competitors haven't made any changes. They're always trying to eat your lunch.
Yeah.
And so they're effectively pushing you down.
Right.
So let's see.
Yeah.
Throw into Keyword Inspector forehead games. Forehead game. We're going to go with that. Ooh, a popularity of 27. That's a lot of popularity. More than I expected for forehead game. But I've played Heads Up before. I know what it's like, and you literally like put it on your forehead. So if you're not aware of what this is and you don't know the name of the app, maybe you just played it with a bunch of friends and then went home and forgot about it, that's probably how I would call it, forehead game. That's actually good, but the thing is, this is a good keyword that's in the subtitle and not in the name. So we got forehead game in the subtitle. It's up front in the subtitle, which is already good, but maybe bring it up. And this is another one of those cases where GuessUp may not be the thing that I search for. Let's see what GuessUp is in terms of popularity. GuessUp. Oh, GuessUp. I lost my voice last week and I just regained it. So if I'm coughing excessively, this is nothing like what it was yesterday or the day before or last week. So here's an interesting example of what we were talking about before with the brand. GuessUp, one word, has a popularity of 11. Every other keyword in the name and the subtitle has a higher popularity. So having GuessUp as the first thing in the name is just taking away space from something that could give the app more visibility. That's kind of how I would look at it. So let's see what Charades is like. Hopefully I know how to spell. Charades is a 57. Okay, now we're cooking. Oh wow, so Charades is a 57. The top app gets 45 new ratings a month, which is just insane. Because its name is just Charades. Because it is a Charades app, I think, maybe. And then the next app down has 2,000 new ratings. The next app down has 240. Oh, this is actually really interesting. So number one is Charades, just Charades as the name, nothing else. 45 new ratings in the US, number one. And the reason that makes sense is kind of what we were saying before. If there's 100% of good juju to go into the name and you're spreading it across exactly one app, exactly one keyword, that's going to get all the juju. And that floats you up. But then the second app has 2,000 ratings, has a whole bunch of other stuff in the name, and that's why it's number two. Third app has 240 ratings, also has the name Charades right up front, and then a few more keywords, so that's why it's number three. And then number four has 4,000 new ratings, more than any of these combined, but it doesn't use Charades in the name, uses it in the subtitle, and that's why that doesn't happen. And that's a paid app. So a paid app with more ratings than all the other apps in the top 5, but doesn't use it.
It's Heads Up.
Yep. Yeah, it's heads up. So you would expect that. But it doesn't mean that for things like this, I would imagine that something like heads up, these big apps, it comes from Warner Bros., they would at least do the very basic diligence. Just do like read some of my keyword teardowns, read some of the articles out there, read some of my guides, like some. You don't have to read all of them, and at least do that. Interesting. Now, I wonder if organic discovery for heads up is even important because they're really losing out and they could be number one. Super interesting. Well, you know, okay, interesting idea. I'm going long as always, but let's see what heads up gets. So it's a popularity of, did it say 64? It's updating. It might be more popular, so maybe it doesn't make any difference or any sense to actually go for it. Oh, there's a lot of stuff happening in the chat that I haven't seen even.
I'm trying to get to a few of them. That's what I'm doing. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm trying to like see if there's some answers I can answer.
The viewing audience probably believes you're slacking me little tips. Like, say this now. We're at 51 likes. Nice. We're doing this. There's a suggestion from Leonardo saying, please create a tool to track app metadata changes history, at least for our own apps. That's actually coming soon. We've had this for the longest time, and we've been using this internally, but we have not used it. We have not put it into the platform, not in beta yet. So it will be available soon. We do have a way to easily switch between different localizations for any app. Not a history, but more changing localizations in the app panel. So click on any app. Let's see if I can show you what it looks like. I don't know if that's exactly what Leonardo is looking for, but click on any app. And then you can easily switch between the languages that we have for them. So Heads app is localized into French and English. I think the name is exactly identical. Everything looks identical. Not sure what's going on here, but that's what we see in the metadata, and you can do that for any app. All right, I'll let you get to more chats, as I think it's time to, let's recap this and move on to the next one. The good things I see about this one is I really like the screenshots. They're exciting, they're interesting, the colors are bright. It's exactly what I would expect from a game like this. I think the icon works really well. I don't really know how else you would make a forehead game icon. This is pretty cool. I do think that the keywords can be improved. I think Word Party and Charades, there's probably a better combination of these, and all of these are better upfront and in combination with the subtitle, and then make use of more of the localizations to try more things. There's so many different things I can think about this, especially if you think about a party game, social game, play with friends. I can think about a million different variations. That's where I would go about this. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, cool. So let's move on to the next one. We're almost coming up on time. Let's run a little bit long. I mean, you have your adult diaper on, so we're good. I heard that. Let's do this last one. Beekeeper Diary. I don't even know how to say this. Apinote? API note? I'm a developer, so when I see API in a sentence, it has to be API. It's not API in any way. But that's just me. This is interesting. This is super niche. Super, super niche. So this is super niche and on Google Play, which means, hooray, we found us a challenge. But let's see what we can distill out of Beekeeper Diary. So Beekeeper Diary already does what we were just saying. Put the intent first, put the major keywords first, then put the name of the app second, which in this case kind of confused me, but I think that's fine. I'm not the algorithm in this case. So that works. So let's see. What do we think about this one? I don't know what a Beekeeper Diary is. I've never been a beekeeper, so I'm not entirely sure what to make of this, but let's see if Beekeeper Diary is a popular keyword at all.
Yeah.
Have you done any sort of beekeeping in your past?
No. But the downside to this app is that there is a branded, Beekeeper's considered branded on Google Play because there's a Beekeeper employee app that shows up as the #1. And
Okay.
so be careful with that name. Obviously, Beekeeper, you want to go after it, but it is sort of branded as Google is saying right now. So it might be beekeeping, or I don't know, maybe there's some other terms in the long description. I don't know much about beekeeping either, but there's some terms in here that they have, like apiaries, yeah, like what you said, hives, inspections, honey harvest. So I don't know if these are relevant keywords. Bee colony, potentially, that might be more interesting than beekeeper by itself, just given that it's right there. And what we've seen when you go after these branded terms, you look at the Google Play search results, it's really the ads that are getting a lot of the attention, because we saw with one of our clients last year when Google made the UI UX change for branded terms, their downloads by branded search terms actually went down. And so I had a few clients that had brands, and it was just like when they made the switch, the UI UX change for branded terms, it like completely killed branded downloads for the big brands that we're working with.
Interesting. So, it's interesting to see the difference between Apple and Google on branded terms. I think Google knows a lot more about this, and Apple doesn't really. So I'm looking at Beekeeper as 2 separate words on Google Play, and we got some results. We don't have many results. I searched for it on the App Store, and we only had, I think, 5 results or 6 results. On Google Play, we only have 20. This is obviously not a very happening type of category, and this happens a lot more than I would expect, where I come across these apps that are really, maybe the App Store is not the first place where you would go and first and look for this app. So you're not taking out your phone and going, I need a Beekeeper diary. Let me type this into Google or into Apple. And when people ask me this, there are 2 things that I would tell them to do. One is kind of similar to what you were saying about the game before. Find something similar that's relevant to this, and then use that to kind of piggyback off of that, ride that wave, and get your app in. So people are not necessarily looking for a Beekeeper diary app, but they're looking for something that has to do with the beekeeping. And I imagine there's a lot of fun stuff that happens with beekeeping that you might look for on the App Store. And if not, optimize for as many of those 5s, popularity of 5, that you can find. Just flood your app with 5 popularity keywords, because eventually it will add up. And you have 10 localizations.
Have you seen that? Have you seen good results with that? Because I am literally doing that, but we're only focused on like at least 20. Because what we saw was getting a keyword into that is around 20 search traffic to number 1 didn't really move the needle as much as we thought it would. It was like 17. But what we are trying to do is try to find enough of these 20, get them to be number 1, because nobody's paying attention to it, and trying to measure the download for that. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of data yet to report back.
It's not the bestest of strategies if you have better strategies, but if you don't have anything else that you can use, that I talked to someone who has an app for dance studios, very specific, very explicit, and we looked at all the dance keywords that we could. This was a while ago, so maybe things have changed, but back when we were looking at it, there was really nothing. All of the keywords, and we looked at a bunch. We looked at different names of dances, types of dances, events related to dances that have dance in the keyword. All those things, they just didn't have a lot of relevancy and a lot of popularity, or a lot of relevancy, not a lot of popularity. And the strategy is just go after all of them. Don't optimize specifically for the one big one, because there's just no one big one. So go for 100 keywords that are 5s or 10s or 15s. Really anything below, I would say even a 25 or a 30 these days, is as a main keyword is going to be kind of challenging in terms of downloads. But if you aim for 50 of those or 30 of those, and they should not be very difficult if you're paying attention, even if it's each one is a download, you could be getting 50 more downloads a day. And we're talking about a download. So that's how I would go about doing something like this. Or this is something I talked about, I think 2 or 3 live streams ago. Go with a website. Have a landing page that's super optimized for Google. So when people put Beekeeper diary, they immediately find your landing page. Landing page goes directly into Google Play or Apple or wherever your app is, and that's how you ride the wave. So it's not exactly App Store optimization, but I mean, we're talking about getting more downloads and not necessarily anything else. Or
here's one thing for this Beekeeper app. Look, Beekeeper, I would avoid it just because it's branded. The Beehive actually has about 26 search volume, and then when I looked on Google, it's Beehive Keepers, so that might be more interesting. And then you avoid the Beekeeper brand, the frontline success platform. And so that's how I might start operating and optimizing this Beekeeper app. Go after Beehive, which is not branded.
Yeah, I like
Just
that
double
idea a
check for you.
lot. I think another thing that I would do is I would look at the paid keywords from Apple search ads for anyone who's competing on anything that has to do with bee. Whether it's, and of course, eliminate all the ones that are very specific branded names. Look at those keywords because someone is paying money for those. And if someone is paying money, they did the research, or at least they tried and they haven't stopped. And so use those keywords, and I bet you Hive will be in there. I don't have a way of showing that yet, but just yesterday, we opened up a small alpha for a tool that will allow you to do that, which I'm hoping we'll get into beta very soon. I've been promising this tool in beta for the longest time, like for a year plus now. But we keep on tweaking and iterating and making it better. And now we have an 8-stage plan for rollout. It's a whole thing. But very soon we'll have the ability to do that. And just like you can look at competitor keywords through the competitor keywords tool here in AppFigures, you'll also be able to look at competitor paid keywords. And from what I've found, you have a totally different set of keywords when it comes to paid. Because organic, the algorithm finds them for you. In a sense, you aim for some, but it's really driven by what users are searching for. Whereas with paid ads, paid search ads, it's all about what you explicitly say, give my money to Apple for this keyword, for clicks or taps on this keyword. And there you see a lot of more specific, more intentful, and also more clever ideas. If a totally different example, but if you look at the keywords for Temu, it's been the number one app on the App Store for so long. Dethroned a few times, but still number one. Most of their many, many thousands of paid keywords have to do with brand names, have to do with ways to shop. Mall is one of their keywords, which I thought was just, why would anyone look for a mall? But then again, when you're paying for them, you're really looking for everything. So a mall and specific brands and names of stores that are not branded or that are not copyrighted, or if they are copyrighted, they split them up just well enough so Apple's not going to stop them. And that's a very interesting way to do keyword research. So I would definitely look at that for bees, especially in a place like this when it's so niche and you want to get as much out of it. So
yeah, to your point, I'm actually, yeah.
What were you saying?
No, I have one app that we own and we lost ranking, and I was trying to figure out why, and I thought it was primarily because of download velocity. Like I can see through Appfigures, the ones that's number one now, they're running advertisements. So according to Appfigures, they're running AdMob, and I'm looking at the competitor keywords right now. If only you guys could see my screen, but I'm seeing what Ariel said before. They are number one for a lot of like 5 keyword traffic scores, and some that are like 14, some are 11, some are 29, but there's a lot of number ones, and they're majority of them are number 5. When I look at our app, we were number one for this keyword, but we're number one for 2 keywords, and they're number one for a lot of keywords is with the 5. So got me thinking that maybe I should go after these 5 keywords.
Yeah, especially if it's
number one for.
Especially if it's a niche. But also 5s are so easy to compete on, even without hurting your main optimization, your main keyword, if you're using localization. So you can devote the Vietnamese localization to just taking competitor value away. And that is a super good strategy for how to do that. Learning new things.
I love this.
Yeah, that's really cool. I can't wait.
I like this feature, man. Competitor, you guys got to check it out. Competitor keywords. It's really good.
I'll show you what he's looking at.
Especially if you lost ranking.
We'll take a quick look at what he's looking at. And it's this. Competitor keywords. And you can select any app in the App Store on Google Play, and it will tell you all of its keywords. I'm going to choose one of these very quickly because I'm lazy. I'm choosing one of the pre-selected apps that we have for demo purposes. We have Robinhood, we have E-Trade, and we have Stash. And you can see all the keywords that all of them are ranked in. 1,271, and then which for each app, how many they are ranked in, and then sort them and see which one they're competing on, which is interesting. So Stash and E-Trade are 6 and 7 for investing, but Robinhood is number 1. And you can find little holes, little gaps that you can sneak into if you're not ranked, or you can find areas where you can climb and take cover. It's pretty cool. And there are a lot of filters here. So if you only want to find those 5s, specifically, which is something that normally you wouldn't do. But if you only want to go for 5s or under 10, that's how I would do it. And you can tell that there are quite a few of those. 800 of that 1200 that we were looking at before, they're all 5s or below 10, I should say. And guess what? Robinhood ranks for a bunch of them, 559. So yeah, there's definitely merit to this new strategy we're talking about here. Okay, I think we're over time. We're 10 minutes, but do you want to try another one? Just one more?
Let's do it.
Let's go. It. Okay, so we did this. Ooh, interesting. Ask and Chat AI Chatbot-IntelAI. This one is on Google Play. So we made it to an AI app. There's so many AI apps. It's ridiculous. I talked about this a whole bunch of times in my newsletter, This Week in Apps. The numbers are just astonishing. And I actually published data on this last week that the official ChatGPT app is finally starting to make more money than the third-party app that was making the most money, which is Ask AI, which is why this is Ask and Chat AI in this name, because Ask AI was the biggest app. The only thing is Ask AI wasn't the biggest app organically. It was just spending tons and tons of money on pretty much every imaginable channel, Twitter ads, and really anything you can think of in-store or out of store. So I don't know if even optimizing for Ask is relevant, just because they're not necessarily the organic leader, and they're not also the brand that people think about when they think of this. They're thinking about ChatGPT. They're not thinking about anything else. And this is like an immediate mistake. A lot of these mistakes are people looking at the competition and they're like, okay, we'll do exactly what they're doing. That's obviously it's working. It's like, no, you got to figure this out. So what do you see when you look at this? Ask and Chat AI.
I say
Intel.
There's a lot of AI related keywords, a lot. So you want to get into the dark patterns here?
Sure. We're over time, so all the good people left.
Hey, it's the late night show with Ariel and Steve.
Exactly.
Right, where we get into the dark patterns. A couple of things. So we'll talk about white first. You're going to have to do that. The white hat strategy would be build for the outcome. Ariel and I talked about this during our live stream, but we work with a lot of AI related apps. You build for the outcome, and we've been able to successfully rank for keywords in a particular niche. So Ask Chat AI Cat. You're going after all the most competitive keywords, not really worth it, especially with only 1,000 plus downloads. So you're probably not running a lot of advertising as an Ask AI would be doing. So the way I do this is like AI writer. There's a ton more. There's like, music AI, songwriting. That's more like AI related terms. So you build for that outcome and then you go up, right? Like then you go up to chatbot, because you want to, like Ariel said, find these keywords that have lower competition and maybe it has lower traffic, but you can at least get to number one and start driving those downloads, those reviews, and so forth. Now, dark patterns would be if there is a website, as an example, that has a particular functionality that you definitely have as well, and there's no app for it. Guess what? And they're running ads, or they're pretty popular. They will have volume. So you can call your app by the same type of name. Now, it is a dark pattern. I'm not suggesting this legally. If you get in trouble, that's not my fault. I'm just saying I've heard this type of strategy being done in the past.
And you have to be very, very careful when you do something like this. I mean, all of the AI craze around ChatGPT started like this. So back in March, you had all these ChatGPT blah, blah, blah apps. And eventually, Apple cracked down on all of them within, I want to say a month. It was probably less, but within about a month. And then when ChatGPT came out, then they went after all of them individually. So they all had to rename. Ask AI, I believe, was ChatGPT something something, renamed after 3 days. Ask AI actually changed their logo or their icon, I want to say a month ago or so, maybe less, maybe more. I don't remember exactly. But because ChatGPT was going after everyone using a similar icon to ChatGPT. So now it's something that's totally different. And I think that's also a part of why it wasn't making nearly as much at this point. I'm trying to find it in the top apps just so we can see what kind of downloads it gets. And I don't know if everyone knows this because we haven't really announced this, but you can click on any of these apps and you can see the number of downloads they have without paying us a single penny. If you pay us, you'll get more data. But yeah, I know. This has been quite like a sneak attack, but we'll be announcing this very soon. So, for example, I randomly clicked on Google on Twitter on X. I'm sorry, on X. I don't know, everything X related sounds funny. I clicked on X. I don't know. In any case, last month on Google Play, 5 million downloads, $1 million in revenue. I don't know what you think about this, but now you know how much money they're making, which I think is really cool. I think that's the kind of thing when you do your research, or even if you're just thinking about, let me make a game. Is there money in games? This you can just click on, get data, move on. I really, really like this. So I was trying to find Ask AI in this list. I don't know where it is. Let's see if we can find it.
On Google Play?
Yeah, on Google Play in top grossing. Where is it highlighting? No, it's not here. I mean, I can always do this.
Raphael says, does the number of downloads work for iOS apps? And I'm assuming it's yes, right, Ariel?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they need something. They need something to look at in order to rank. And so it's a combination.
No, I meant I think what he was asking for this, the estimated downloads for under Appfigures.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is Google Play, what we're looking at here. So this is Twitter and Google Play. Are we still on Google Play? Yeah, let's take a look at ChatGPT. How much money do you think ChatGPT is making on Google Play? If you haven't read my newsletter, obviously, because otherwise you'd know.
ChatGPT? Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
$190,000 on Google Play worldwide in September.
Wow.
But just wait. We're going to switch to iOS. iOS it's loading, 3 million. So 3 million in September. It was actually their biggest month. And they've been growing gradually where everyone else is just taking a nosedive, especially in September. September was kind of a rough month.
Yeah.
But fewer downloads on Google, on Apple. So on the App Store, 7 million downloads. On Google Play, 9 million downloads. So monetization.
That's what we typically see too.
That's what I was saying before. The numbers are just astonishing. Okay, cool. So let's get back to this so we can continue. One of the first things that I see, putting AI aside, is these screenshots are so heavy. I don't necessarily want to see what's going on here. And I know it's kind of tough advertising a thing that's a text box. But even talking about keywords, you're not really buying a text box. No one wants to talk to AI. I don't wake up in the morning and go, yes, I'm going to talk to AI today. It's more along the lines of, I need a thing and I need to get it done, and I can shortcut my way into getting it done by putting a thing into a text box. So the app is really selling a toolbox of solutions. And if we think about it that way, what are some of those solutions? What are the most popular solutions that people are going to do using this app? Or they're going to make, they're going to write emails? Are they going to write toast for weddings? Are they going to analyze legal contracts? Really, whatever you think as a developer that is important, obviously, hopefully with research and some keyword research, that's kind of what I would highlight. So, and the app tries to do this. Are you a coder? Code better with IntelAI. Is that what it says here? Endless possibilities. Ask literally anything. This I really hate. Endless possibilities is the opposite of intent. I don't want to think about possibilities. I want to think about the one thing I really care about. What else do we have here? Personal wellness. Yeah, so these screenshots are just a lot of text. I would try to make this more exciting somehow. Also, these fonts are they're not friendly. They need to be more chubby. If "Are you a coder" had a question mark, that would actually be read as a question. I know I'm nitpicking, but when people look at this, and that's what I found with screenshots a lot, it's you look at this and you get this feeling from the screenshot. And a lot of people don't know how to verbalize it. So they'll just say, I don't like this. Like, why? But if you start picking every pixel, then you start seeing, okay, so maybe it's the font. It's just not friendly. Chubby fonts are more friendly. That's just how it works. Maybe the color combination is just a little bit hard to read. The fact that the phone is stretched on the entire screen, I don't understand why. That's way too much stuff. My brain is already at overcapacity by looking at this. And these are really little tweaks that you can make and make this a little bit better. But that's what I'm thinking about this. Where does your mind go?
My mind goes. My mind's going in the chat. Angelina says, "My Christmas present came
saw
early. You
this
two on the
one.
same show." The screenshots, yeah. Like, listen, I think the icon is ugly. It's just an eye. Like, I agree with you. The text reads so early 2000, 1995, like front page days that I'm just like, I would really try to optimize for this. They have something about homework. Like, I know essay writer, AI writer, these all have good traffic and lower competition, that the big guys are going to fight for ChatGPT and the primary keywords. Like, that's why I say stay in the niche, because the big guys are not even focused on the niche. They're just going after these high traffic keywords because they have so much ad spend. Whereas you, without any ad spend, needs to focus more on the niche, build the revenues, build the downloads, and then go after the head tail. It's easier to start in the niche. I go bottoms up. It's better to start from the bottom and then go upwards versus starting from the top where everybody's at, and then trying to compete with those guys there too. So, and it's screenshots. I don't like these trailing keywords too. So like the Intel fast AI chat powered by, and then ChatGPT. It's like, make ChatGPT bigger. And then really, I agree with you, man. The font style is just like whackety whack.
Yeah. So I've been looking at a lot of screenshots just because I like looking at screenshots. And one of my first thoughts was we should build a tool that will help you with screenshots. We have all this knowledge. We know what the captions should look like, what they should feel like, depending on your category, depending on your keywords. We can AI this stuff. So I talked to the team. Maybe we'll build one of those. Do not steal my idea, please, internet. I will build it. But I think that would be
I love it.
A cool way to leverage data to say, okay, what should my screenshots look like, as opposed to just either take one of those random templates that you can find on Google, or just make this. And I don't mean to be mean, but I think when people look at this stuff, they get this emotion. And if that emotion is not excitement and yes, I want this, you're really lost. Because even if you have your keywords amazingly perfect and everything lines up, they arrive at this and they may not make that connection between problem that I have, this solution. And especially, even though it's free, people do know that stuff costs money. So they're not going into this thinking, oh, this is a free to download, let me download it. They're like, it's free to download, but they'll probably ask me for money at some point. And there's this, in my opinion, terrible trend of popping up the paywall immediately after the app is open for the first time, which I personally dislike. And I think people are getting used to that at this point. And maybe now it's still working, but give it a few more months. We're gonna be like, okay, it's free, but I'll have to pay at some point. So let me find something that works well for me. And I think that's where things kind of break down. So that's why I am very nitpicky about screenshots myself.
Yeah. We do have data. If you show a paywall right immediately without some onboarding, one app, he just in our audience, and he had this paywall showing immediately, and then he added 3 different screens, like, warming them up, and then he saw like a 234% increase in sales once he made that change. And then that was for a smaller app. That's why you get those 3x type of things.
Yeah.
But for his bigger app, he saw 30%, and it was already working well, right? Just showing the paywall first, but then it worked better when you just have a few screens just to remind people what the app does and lead them around that journey, and then show them the paywall.
That's super interesting. And that, in my opinion, that's a lot better, because if I just downloaded your app, you're coming off of the assumption that I know why I downloaded the app and I know what the app will do for me. That's not true. I downloaded the app because everything worked out. The screenshots didn't stop me from downloading it. The keywords aligned enough that I was able to find it, see that it would do something for me, and kind of continue. I have no idea what I can get out of it. Maybe it's going to save my life and make me a better person, but I don't know. I just downloaded it. So now you want money for what exactly? But then if you say this app will make you a better person, you're okay, maybe it's worth a shot. So I think it's the little things. You are somehow muted.
I'm on mute.
Oh, yeah.
I know. I muted myself. You want some good news?
I want some good
news. We hit 60 likes.
We're at 60.
I was encouraging the chat to be like, we're so close. Can we get to 60? So we're at 60.
Hooray.
Hooray.
Now let's
we got some interesting A/B tests.
Yeah, now you're going to have to make up some new A/B tests so we can ask for 60 next time. That's how it's going to be.
True.
It's going to tease.
We'll have some more, man. This is why I love the app space. It's always changing. And so we'll have some new stuff, and I'll have some new stuff for you guys. But the first thing is repeating keywords and then going after the 5 traffic terms, like my competitor. Got to get these was going to say F first, but I got to get these guys.
Yep. There's I mean, that's why we have a lot of tools that tell you about competitors, tell you about how much money they're making, how many downloads they're getting. You have to know these sort of things in order to get them. And I mean, we're not saying like, go get them because you're evil. We're saying go get them because you're building an app that's better. And your app should be in front of everything else because it is better.
Yep.
So I think we did it. We got through 5 apps. So that's kind of my personal best. It only took us 30 more minutes than normal, but that's okay. Enough people stuck around that I think it's fine. I've been so like afraid of straying from the hour because I don't want people. I know people have stuff to do and their meetings. So there's so many things to do these days. So I'm trying to stick to an hour, but I had so much fun. I did the same thing in my last live stream. The conversation just couldn't end. So now I think we got to the end. Steve?
Now it's time to say goodbye, guys. I know you're sad, but don't be sad. I'll be back.
I know.
So,
well, I mean, now we have proof, and this is all on video, and this is going on YouTube, so we can't say no anymore. We did it.
Awesome, man. This was a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
It was a lot of great insights. So
yeah,
thanks for having me.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on this, and we'll do this again. We'll definitely do this again. We'll make this happen. Yeah, I can't really think of anything. I mean, I want to share more things, but I think we touched on so many good notes. The localizations, the way the weight works from left to right, Google and Apple both. We talked about DPR. We talked about ratings. Yeah, we talked about a lot of good stuff. We even snuck in a few things that I'm not going to repeat. Very nice. Alrighty. Well,
thank you, man.
Steve, thank you very much. Again,
Thank you.
This was a pleasure, and we'll have you again. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you have any comments for us, thoughts for us, feedback for us that you didn't manage to put into the chat, drop it in the comments below. This video is going on YouTube, and it's going to be public, so those will be public as well. That's all I got for you. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are, and we'll be back in the future with more. So take care, Steve. Bye, everyone. See you later.